All right, and then I'll start the broadcast. That'll start letting some folks filter on in. And there we go. Hi, Michelle. How are you? It's nice to see you again. Broadcast. That'll start letting some folks filter on. Michelle,
hey, Dan.
How are you? There we go.
I'm great. Welcome. It's great to be back. Good to see everybody. Hi, Jason. Glad to have you joining us today.
Hello. Good to be here.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us for another QuickBooks Power Hour. Today, we're going to be talking about managing multiple payments, actually managing single payment methods across multiple sales channels. So there's a singular multiple mix in here. With our guest Bookkeep, as well as a surprise never before attempted on the live QB Power Hour. We're going to be bringing somebody in via satellite. Actually, hopefully, Dawn Brolin was supposed to join us, but the dumpster fire that is air traffic or air travel these days had other plans. And so what we did was we actually recorded a little session with her yesterday, and so we're going to intermingle her throughout the presentation, because she's a great proponent or promoter of Bookkeep and the way that it's affected her practice, and I wanted to get her perspective on this as well. So let's go ahead and move on. Michelle, who are you?
Hi, everybody. I'm Michelle Long, CPA with an MBA in entrepreneurship. Glad to have you guys all joining me. As you know, I'm the owner of Long for Success, and happy to have you guys all joining us here today, and glad to be back. I took a few weeks off to go down to Ecuador in the Southern Hemisphere. My first time down there. Had a great time, but very glad to be back and to see you all here and joining us today. Dan, go ahead.
And glad to have you back, if I may say so myself. My name is Dan DeLong, owner of DanWith. I worked at Intuit for about 18 years, your co-host today, as well as the co-host of the Workshop Wednesday over at School of Bookkeeping, and doing the technical editing for the QBO for Dummies series of books. And joining us through YouTube is Dawn. So let's whoops. I don't know why my phone just decided to interrupt here, but let's
here
try.
On your QB Power Hour. There's nothing better than to hang out with great professional friends like you and Michelle, as always. And so for those of you who may not know me, my name is Dawn Brolin. I'm a certified public accountant, a certified fraud examiner, and the author of the Designated Motivator for Accounting Professionals. And I'm really excited to be here today to talk about multi-channel payments and keeping an eye out for the danger zones that are out there. And I'm hoping we can provide you with some amazing content. I happen to be in the air right now. Well, technically not, I guess, but I'm in the air as I'm doing some vacation traveling, but I wouldn't want to miss a moment of QB Power Hour. So hopefully I'll be in the chat being able to answer questions, but really excited about this topic. So Dan and Michelle, thank you so much for having me today. Hey, Dan, thanks so much for having me here on your
We love her so
nice
much.
She had
here again.
She wanted to say it twice. Jason's joining us from Bookkeep. Why don't you give us a little Dun & Bradstreet about yourself?
My background, I've been a small business entrepreneur for a long time, started but before that, appropriately here, I worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers on accounting side, or accounting software side. And then I opened a grocery store, wine store. So I've been a small business owner. I always have done my books through all of that. I started a point of sale company back in 2008 called ShopKeep, because I was so frustrated with the point of sale available to small businesses. Point of sale being your most important accounting software tool in a retail restaurant. That experience has led me to start Bookkeep, where we are helping automate the data entry of accurate financials from point of sale, e-commerce, payment systems, because it's becoming really, really hard to manage it manually these days. And that's what we do at Bookkeep. And we'll talk more about that today.
Is there any solution, Jason, that doesn't have the word keep in it that you're associated with?
I decided to keep it simple and get those domains wherever I could get it. But Bookkeep is the best, I think.
Yeah, somebody in the chat said, keeping it real.
Right.
Well, thanks for joining us. So A little bit of the details about the QB Power Hour. It's every other Tuesday at 12 noon Eastern, whatever time zone that is for you. Unfortunately, it's still not eligible for CPE, so just you're joining us because you're joining us. That's awesome. Some of the upcoming topics. So it's my turn to go abroad. So next time, Michelle is going to be flying solo, but also having a special co-host for her to help. She did a class at Scaling New Heights about the year-end cleanup and the books review. So she's going to be revisiting that the next time on the Power Hour. And then in September, around the time that 2023 QuickBooks Desktop 2023 will be released, we'll go through some of the new features. I was actually surprised when we got our little preview that there's more than a handful this time. So so desktop is not dead. They're actually still developing and adding new things, and not just carrying over things from QuickBooks Online like last year. So they actually created some new things, some things that we'll be talking about in September. And then everybody loves spreadsheets, especially the accountants and bookkeepers. So we'll be having Jonathan Bello joining us at the end of September with Trevor Lee from Genius Sheets to talk about some of the things that you can do inside of QuickBooks and some of the things that you might need to add on when you're working in spreadsheets inside of QuickBooks Online. You can always go to the website. We've got some website updates for you. If you go there and take a look at the upcoming events. We tried to make it a little simpler because our schedule has been very fluid. I guess is a nice way to put it. Sometimes we need to pivot and change things. So it's easiest for you to take a look at what is coming up by looking at the at our website, because we'll keep that more readily updated than putting things on your calendar. So you can always check out the latest topics on the QB Power Hour website. A little bit of housekeeping. If you have technical questions or topical questions about what it is that we're talking about here today, please put them in the Q&A so that we can capture them. Especially if we have to take that offline, we can follow up with you a lot easier than if you put them in the chat, which I've also noticed that it was disabled, but now the chat is open. I can see that people are using it. And then also we have the handouts on our the link in the I should put in the link for today's handouts as well in the chat, which I'll do in a moment when Dawn talks again. As well as the resources page will have all of the handouts available on the QB Power Hour website. So our agenda today, we're going to talk a little bit first about the difference between sales channels and payment methods. Because there's some sales channels or some payment methods that are kind of blurring the line between what they are. And the way we're going to handle this is Dawn is going to actually kind of kick us off with the discussion through the recorded session that we did yesterday, and then Jason and Michelle and I will just kind of talk through that kind of like as a discussion. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about just what is Square, because it's one of those things that kind of sits on both sides of the sales channel versus the payment method solution. Some of the dangers that we've seen over the years of living in the bank feeds, and then the challenges of using the same payment method in multiple places. And then Dawn will give us her perspective of how she found Bookkeep and how it's helped her practice. So let's start off with Dawn. Mm-hmm.
The different merchant processors that we have are great because people want to get paid however they can get paid. But a merchant processor, ultimately, at the end of the day, is just moving money. So a merchant processor moves money. It's cash flow, where a sales channel is the revenue channel. And the revenue is different than the cash flow. And I think that that's the confusion people have. So they think, ultimately, I'm going to bring my Stripe transactions in through the bank feeds. And what ends up happening there is the true sale itself, again, regardless of where it's coming from, the sale itself is not being recorded properly. So we're seeing people treat merchant accounts like sales accounts when really, in fact, it's a method of payment, just like maybe cash or a check, whether it's PayPal, whether it's Stripe, whether it's Square, it doesn't matter. Those are merchant processors. But at the same time, we've got to make sure that we record that revenue properly. And again, why we talked about the bank feeds and the ability to match transactions, if you're bringing them directly in and you go into the bank feeds, you think you're recording, that's where I record revenue. No, that's where cash flow happens. But at the end of the day, being able to bring true transactions, sales, revenue transactions is the right way. Because we know, if you've ever dealt with having to reconcile merchant statements, you may have sales on one day and they compile them, maybe 2 days in a row and it comes in as one. The sales truly happened each day. The way the money is moved is a separate transaction. And that's why it's a huge danger for people to think that revenue posting through a bank feed is correct. It is the absolute opposite. With regards to, for instance, PayPal is a great example. We have clients who are just taking payments or sending payments, and all of a sudden they figure out this invoicing part. And so they're shifting just so that they can get paid. Right. So they'll open multiple sales channels, and then the processor comes through one processor. You've got to track those sales channels in a different way than, again, you may be selling something online and your payment processing is PayPal, or you're sending invoices because you're doing some services on top of that, or whatever it may be. And it's all coming through PayPal. Now you're not recording a service revenue versus a sales revenue of a merchandise, let's just say. And maybe you think that a lot of business owners just go out and they're just trying to make money. And they don't realize the impact and the consequence of, well, I've got this sales, and what I'm doing is I'm a contractor and I'm installing equipment or doing something like that. But at the same time, I'm also selling parts over here that I've got in storage and inventory that I want to get rid of. And so they don't realize the impact of the accounting on that is significant because, number one, maybe the service is taxable, but the sales aren't. And so, or vice versa, right? And so what we end up happening is now we have an understatement of sales tax, or we have a totally incorrect sales tax. But because we've been in that complacency of bank feeds, it's just sales, who cares? That's where we have to sharpen our pencils, I think that's the answer at the end of the day. Take that red pencil and sharpen it.
Yeah, that was a lot of information to kind of there we go. A lot of information to digest. And there was just some of the things, but the basic idea is that the difference between a sales channel and a payment processor. And this slide, I think, kind of summarizes the mess that it could potentially cause. Jason, you want to kind of talk us through all of these logos that you have on?
There we go. Yeah, we built this slide to kind of show the complexity, and I kind of grouped them together to make it clear. Like the hybrid sales and payment channels are Shopify does payments as well as it's a sales system. Stripe also does the same. A lot of delivery apps that you see are sales and payment systems, as well as hybrids. And then you've got e-commerce systems like a WooCommerce doesn't really do payments. They usually connect Square. Well, they can do Square, but usually it's PayPal or Stripe. And BigCommerce as well. They usually let you pick your own payment method. So those are more sales systems. And then at the bottom here, you've got, pure payment systems, as well as the merchant processors that we all know that have been around forever. So there's a lot of different things, and e-commerce marketplaces generally handle the payments for you as well. They do the sales and the payments. So you have to understand what the system is, and a lot of times they will also pay the sales tax for you, which is something else that gets complicated, but we're going to go into a little more of that in the next couple of slides.
Yeah, Michelle, what do you take away from what Dawn said there?
I think it's a great way that Dawn, pulled it apart like that, because it's easy to just talk about sales, but sales could encompass a lot of things. Like she mentioned sales taxes, but also, and I know we're going to mention this in a minute, it could also encompass things like deposits or some other things, that are coming in with the sales that aren't really sales that need to be accounted for separately, including the taxes and other things like that. So I think it's good to identify those things and keep them separately, and along with the payments, things that need to be kept separately that we're going to talk about, like fees and things like that. So it's much more complex than just one thing, and digging into those details. Dawn, clearly pulls that out, and I think that's a good way to to just initially separate them out as sales and the payments, you know, and help separate them. And now, you know, we're going to dig deeper into it. So I think this is very helpful.
And somebody asked in the Q&A, can we get a printout of this listing? Yeah, you can go to our go to the QB Power Hour website. I put the link in the chat. I'll do it again in the Q&A so that you have it. I think Michelle is doing that too.
Yep. I just,
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
there's the link.
Perfect. But yeah, this you can just download the handouts and then, you know, kind of print it out for yourself and, you know, play pin the tail on the sales channel or or some game of maybe kind of like what am I thinking of, like those cop shows where they have all the strings, you know, connected to, you know, usual suspects and that sort of thing.
Because they integrate with each other. A lot of these.
And some people who end up, you know, just trying to make the simplicity of it, they end up, you know, kind of living in the bank feed or counting a deposit, you know, as the net of the deposit as revenue. And Jason, I think you have. Oh, we have a poll first. So first poll question is, how many sales channels? How I can't say. How? Oops, I got. Let me make sure I'm on the right one. There we go. How many sales channels do your clients use? And that could be, you know, some hybrids or just pure sales channels.
And this is where I see it getting somewhat complex with some of these small business clients, is all of a sudden they start saying, oh, I'm going to use Venmo and I'm going to use Cash App and I'm going to use this. And all of a sudden they start wanting to use everything just because they can. Whereas, you know, I think it's helpful to try to focus them and not let them do that. You know, they just, because all these are out there, they just want to start using everything. And I think that's counterproductive. What are your all thoughts to that?
Yeah, I think that, you know, to Dawn's point of what she said there is like, they're just trying to get paid.
Yeah.
Right. And
yeah.
That's the problem, is you can't really stop them. They're going to use whatever they're going to use. Often the clients don't usually ask you, hey, do you mind if I start using this system, or I'm going to use this system? You just see it, you end up seeing the deposits, and then you get to have to work backwards.
Yeah. Especially, you know, sometimes they just show up like, and I think last time you came on, Jason, you were talking about, you know, Square offering a savings account. Like, you know, they discover these things, you know, as they're using them, and then you know, to your point, they just show up like, where did this come from? Right. You know, like,
well, what happens with that?
Square, you know,
Square and Shopify, as an example, they have a debit card. Square also has savings accounts. So in this discussion, when those things are enabled, you no longer get deposits. So your bank feed is useless because the money is being kept at Square. We handle that at Bookkeep for you for the most part, but Square doesn't share that information with us either. So it actually, if you can stop your client from using the Square savings account or debit card, it will help your it'll help your day, because it's really frustrating right now until they make it available in the API.
Yeah, that's the nugget for today. If you if you didn't know that Square had a savings account, now you do. Yeah. And if you have a client on Square, don't have them sign up.
Yeah, if you can. Yeah, and the loans.
Now, I'm just going to share the results here. It looks like most people are in the 1 to 3 category, but we do have up to 10, and there's a couple people with 11 to 20
oh my
range.
Goodness.
So certainly gets pretty complicated the more. And it's kind of like when you have kids, right? Like it's when you have one sales channel, it's okay, but it's not just like when you add the second child, it's double the work. It's like exponentially more, and then each sales channel that you add on top of that, it's like you're drowning, and then somebody hands you a baby, right?
Yep. So you want me to
this idea about deposits,
gross receipts.
You know, yeah, so let's start with Dawn, and I think we move into this whole idea of a deposit is not revenue, which we'll unpack that.
I used to love the bank feeds initially because it was better than entering data. Like at least it was better. It gave us an opportunity to start to attempt to automate everything that happens within our businesses. But I think over time we've realized that, okay, bank feeds may be good for a couple things, but really at the end of the day, especially when it comes to revenue, the bank feed that comes in is not giving us that true transaction, that true gross up of a sale, right? And then the fees or deductions or sales tax or other things that may be happening within those different payment processors, such as Square or any PayPal or any of those other merchant transaction processors, we're not getting those actual transactions accurately into QuickBooks by using bank feeds. And I think we've become complacent in a little bit of a way in our industry that we assume that, oh, bank fees is going to do everything. We just create a bunch of rules and we go off and have coffee or go to a softball game. But that's not the case. So we know over time that was good in the beginning, maybe, but I think it slipped us into this lull of assuming it's all correct. So, before Bookkeep came along, at least for me, that's the way I was treating the transactions. And I realized that was just the opposite way. And as a CPA, I felt kind of stupid, I'll be honest with you, Dan. So it's kind of like, bank feeds is a danger zone and we can become too complacent. I think that's the message. I think the matching is what we should be relying upon in bank feeds. The match is almost like the new reconciliation of sorts, even though I know we always want to go through the reconciliation process. But I think that at the end of the day, the transactions that come into the bank feeds should already be existing in your file. And really what you're doing is just kind of verifying, yeah, that's right, or this is right. And, sometimes we do see errors in transactions that may be coming in natively as opposed to through bank feeds, that we see that maybe there's an error. And that's where you get the ability to research and figure out maybe what went wrong. But at the end of the day, bank feeds you should be going in there and just matching all the transactions. Your bank account should always be what matches the bank, what's in your QuickBooks file. And really bank feeds should absolutely be for matching.
So that is, one of the, come on, go through there. So Jason, you have this concept and you have a YouTube video about it as well, about deposit is not revenue. Let's talk about, unpack that for us. My
very exciting YouTube video about deposits are not revenue. But essentially the same thing that we've been discussing here. One thing that Dawn didn't mention, and I've been in retail for so long, it used to be that you would get your credit card deposits every day, and that was the gross amount. It was included the tips. It did not have fees taken out of it. And then your fees would come out at the end of the month. So it was pretty easy to match what was deposited to what you expected for your sales and sales tax. You still have to book them separately. But it's gotten more complicated now. And if you go to the next slide, Square obviously is huge. And a lot of people use Square because it's easy and it works really well. And Square sort of started this trend of taking the fees out every single day. So now you might not know what the fees are. And a lot of systems like PayPal, you don't always know what the fees are. The fees are taken out before your money hits the bank the next day. So now you can't even sort of estimate what was, the sales plus sales tax, because now there's some percentage of fees taken out, which is not always clear exactly what that is. So you can't even estimate without having direct access to the data. Square also takes money out for loans. If you get a loan payment with Square, and there's like 4 or 5 clicks to go and find that report to see what was the principal and interest. And now with the new payment, the debit card that Square has, as an example, they actually stop making deposits to your bank account, but they also take those out of your deposits as well. So that's what's in your deposit. And we'll show you here in a second sort of an example of that. If you go to the next page, the other thing is, this is what Dawn touched on, is revenue types are more varied. So you can't just look at your bank feed and understand that this was service sales versus product sales versus, some one-off sale that we did, for whatever reason. That you can't get that information from the banking feed. There's a lot of different things that can come in, as well as sometimes there's adjustments on payments. Maybe payments were done late. So you can't always just decide from the bank feed what the proper booking is for those deposits. And then on the next slide, you'll see that we have a lot more things being deposited too, which a lot of this we know, sales tax, credit card tips are becoming a bigger deal. It used to be just restaurant. The credit card tips were usually paid out, but now with Square, you've got so many other businesses that are accepting tips, and tips are part of those deposits, and understanding what those deposits, what part of the deposits is tips versus sales minus fees gets really complicated. And then of course, bottle deposits and gift cards have been around. And then there's a lot of different fees that can come out of those deposits now as the payment processors are getting smarter. They want their money the same day. They don't want to wait till the end of the month. They're taking a lot of different fees out, including loan fees. And so the bank fee is not going to show that. It's going to show, money. The total is less than what you expected because of these fees. So what the best practice for touching on what Dawn said as well is the deposits really should be matched. The deposits really should be a check against what you've already booked as sales. And you should know what you're expecting for those deposits before the deposits hit so that you can match them. And know, yep, I booked all my sales on the day that it happened, and the deposit will come tomorrow or the next day. And when it matches to what I'm expecting, then I've reconciled that sales day. I mean, it's basically a daily reconciliation when you're matching in the bank feed to the sales that were posted the previous day or previous couple days.
Yeah, and if you're talking about Square, and maybe think about, like Amazon has taken it to the nth degree, because not only do they not deposit, daily or 2 days later, it's now 2 weeks later.
Yes.
And those settlements reports are just a summarization of all of the fees that they include, and it's so maddening to try to back those things out.
It's totally true. And that's actually brings up an important point. The way we handle Amazon is we will book your sales every single day. We will book a sales entry. Best practice is to book daily sales entries because for many, many reasons, one of them is because you want to do daily comparisons. If you're using multiple sales tools, your real source of truth is QuickBooks. If I'm selling on Amazon, I'm selling on Shopify, and I have a store that also does Square, my source of truth is QuickBooks. If I'm not booking daily sales from all three systems into my QuickBooks, how am I going to go look back and say, what was our sales the day before Thanksgiving? I'm going to have to go look in three systems. And even then, it's going to be hard to figure that out. You want to be able to book daily so you can do comparisons. And also because clients eventually switch systems, they stop using Amazon. And there's all kinds of reasons that you really want to do daily sales bookings and then reconcile to the deposits.
All right. So we're going to now throw another poll question out there. We talked about the different sales channels. Now, how many payment platforms are you seeing in your practice? Is it same categories, 1 to 3 or 4 to 10? Because to Dawn's point earlier, the customer is just getting paid, and they're not going to not want to get paid, right? So I remember, setting up a Shopify customer, and then all of a sudden I started to get deposits to Sezzle. I'm like, what is that? Like, where did that come from? And it's, he just turned it on because, somebody wanted to take installment payments instead of, paying all at once. So we just had to learn what that is after he had turned it on.
So Jason, I have a question for you. Where's sales tax? Where's the truth for sales tax? Is it in this? Is it in the e-commerce application for recording the sales, or is it going to be in QuickBooks for the sales?
That gets a little complicated. If you're using multiple sales channels, I definitely recommend using TaxJar or some. There's many tools out. There's a few tools out there.
That's really what I wondered. Yeah.
Yeah, because even still, once you get everything into QuickBooks, you want to make sure it's actually reconciled to those systems before you pay your sales tax. But that's another reason why you want to be booking dailies. Your sales tax is due on accrual basis, period. You have to pay your sales tax based on what you sold that month. I don't care if you're cash based or accrual based. If you're selling stuff on these systems, you're accrual. So you need to have your dailies in, and you need to have, Amazon as an example. If you wait until you get your deposit, you're not going to know what, is due by the end of December, or the end of the month. So what we recommend is that you get, the source of truth is those sales systems that did the collection. And then you check that against QuickBooks to make sure it's the same in QuickBooks before you pay it. Because, your e-commerce systems and your sales systems, like a point of sale system, they're designed to not allow you to change data. You can't change transactions. I mean, Shopify a little bit you can, which is kind of a pain in the butt. But really, once a sale is made to a credit card, that data doesn't go away. So those are the real source of truth on what actually happened. Whereas in QuickBooks, an entry can get deleted or someone didn't enter the entry. So you always want to do a reconciliation between the two before you pay your sales tax. That's
Gotcha.
how I recommend it.
Thank you.
All right, so let's we mentioned this elephant in the room of Square. Talk a little bit about this, because this is one of those things that is one of those hybrid payment processors, not just as a payment processor that you can add to a sales channel to process the payment, but they can also have a point of sale system, or you can do invoicing out of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think still sometimes PayPal is definitely a payment method that is always the secondary one if they're in e-commerce. They always have PayPal in addition, which can be really frustrating because PayPal is very difficult to work with.
What do you find? Which do you prefer to work with? Do you prefer to work with something like a Square or PayPal, or does it make not a difference if you're using them as payment methods across multiple sales channels?
To us, we will work with all of them, and the more complicated they get, the more I have a job. But because it's really getting very hard to stay on top of it. But like I said, clients are going to use what they're going to use. They're going to use the ones that are cheaper. They're going to use the ones that get them paid faster or get them the sale in real time. So if it becomes really easy on Instagram to buy something with one click, then they're going to use that. So we all have to be able to support those needs and properly account for it. But then also properly tell our clients, yeah, you've been using that Instagram, fake button that I've made up in my head here to make sales. Did you realize Instagram's charging you 15%? You want to be as your advisor to your clients, being able to tell them that within a short period of time. And that's where we are trying to help you really get those things booked in real time so that you have those numbers to be able to show your clients what's going on.
So this example that you have of Square, you have the sales plus the liabilities minus the fees, minus the loan payments, minus the debit card expense, minus the savings, then there's your deposit. So that's just in one fell swoop. How you don't want to live in the bank feed for the deposit to book your sale.
And actually, one other little thing on that Square debit card, if they do enable the debit card, you won't get deposits daily anymore. You actually, your client will have to press a button and do a transfer of funds, because basically when you enable the debit card in Square, it turns Square into a checking account. So it no longer moves money into your other checking account. So you end up doing transfers. So we account for that by booking daily fees, your payment processing fees out of that account. And we keep a balance account. We treat every one of your payment platforms, every payment system, as a balance account. What is owed, just like a checking account. Here's what is expected to be deposited. Here's what was deposited. And so you can keep a balance of what's going on in these other accounts that are not typical checking accounts.
Now, this is the conundrum, right? The sales is happening daily, but the deposits are hitting, days later. It's kind of like, changing the tires on a moving vehicle. How do you actually account for that? Right.
So and this is something, this is best practice. I learned this 2004, like 18 years ago when I opened my wine store, just from using QuickBooks and using Microsoft RMS, which was one of the best point of sale systems around. It's been around for 10 or 20 years before I started in retail. And what that system did and what you did in retail is you booked your sales summary every day into your accounting platform. Your Z report, it's basically the sales summary, sales tax, what was paid in credit cards, what was paid in cash, what was paid in checks. you book that every single day into your accounting platform, and the expected deposits from your different payment methods would go into, undeposited funds accounts, which we like to call balance accounts. And that is the best practice, which is quite time consuming to do manually and daily. And that's basically what we automate with Bookkeep.
So this is an example of
I put this
your
little
Square
example.
deposit.
Yeah, I put this little example together to kind of give you an idea using just a T chart here. So if you look at on the left side in the red, a Square deposit, what you would see in the bank feed from Square is $900.50, right? And what we would book as an entry against that is we would gross it up to be, well, we expected $1,000 from Square, but then Square took out $29 in fees, and then they took out $70 in your loan payment. So you end up with $900.50 in your bank account. But there's an entry that happened the day before this, and that's on the right side, and that's the entry of your sales. So you actually had gross sales of $1,000 on that day. You discounted that $100, and you had $50 in returns. You collected $100 in sales tax and $50 in tips. The total of that equals $1,000 that we expect Square to give us. And that's the reconciliation between in that balance account, where you are creating a sales entry the day before, which is on the right side, expecting $1,000. And then on the left side, you actually got your deposit of $900.50, which then balances to what I expected was $1,000. But then there was also fees and stuff taken out of that deposit. So it's a two-step process to do it accurately. But this is exactly what Bookkeep does automatically for you. And so then what you would see when you see your deposit, if you're using Bookkeep, is it's just a match. It'll actually, in the bank feed, you'll see the $900.50. It'll say match. You'll see the journal entry name from Bookkeep, and you'll know that deposit matches what was expected.
So you can get out of the bank feed and just let it match, which then, as Dawn was saying, then that is now just your new reconciliation.
Yes.
when things are just matching, rather than you actually doing some bookkeeping from the bank feed.
Yes, I believe, I actually just heard this term today, pre-accounting. It's sort of, all of these entries should be posted before they hit your bank account. And your bank account, so when you're looking at your bank feed on a daily basis, you are actually doing a daily reconciliation. You are actually doing the steps that you might do at the end of the month, but at the end of the month, when you go to look at your reconciliation in QuickBooks, it's going to be perfect. Ideally, every day is just click matches in your bank feed. And at the end of the month, when you go to that reconcile bank account, everything's already checked off and it says zero difference. I mean, that's really, I don't think it's ever happened to me yet, but there's always, and I do my own books still.
One can dream.
But it is the dream. But that is where we're trying to get with Bookkeep on the revenue side. And eventually we will also help on the expense side as well in the same regard.
One thing I just pointed out at that example that you just gave, Jason, is look how much is missed. How Dawn was saying, if we just booked that deposit as revenue of $1,000, look how much we missed there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that would actually be the $950.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The 900.50. If we just booked that as a revenue, look how much we missed there. So that's where it's a very good example of, you got to get out of the bank feed and get into all this detail.
Yep.
And sometimes it's a tough conversation with clients at times, because I had a coffee roaster who was using Square at farmers markets as well as a Shopify site, and he just had a variety of different ways. And of course, this is, dealing with inventory. And he was like, I just have a post as the net there, I'm like, stop. It's just, how do you?
You're misrepresenting your revenue too. If you want to get loans, you're lowering your revenue. And it happens. And I know people on this call they're just like, I'm just overwhelmed with this client and I just can't, I can't get the detail they need. So it's just end up being what happens. You just book it as revenue sometimes because it's the easiest thing to do, and the client's not paying you enough. And I think over time it'll change with automation, which will make it easier for everyone and then more accurate for everyone.
All right. So now we're going to kind of pivot here to Dawn. I think I found the most embarrassing freeze frame of Dawn here on this YouTube, but she has this thing, this concept called a starting lineup. So I wanted to kind of talk a little bit with Dawn about what that means for her.
I wrote the book, The Designated Motivator for Accounting Professionals, because I have worked really hard over the last 3 years to solidify my tech stack, to minimize my interaction with data on a manual level so that I can be on the softball field. So that's a passion of mine. I figure, I'm 52. I don't want to regret not going back and enjoying the game of softball and helping others enjoy it as well. So I knew that I needed to take charge of my business and say, okay, what are the aspects of a practice? What do I need for the things I'm doing for my clients? What technology do I need to implement where it will integrate, where it will solve problems without me being in the office? And so I set myself up in a way that I decided my firm has positions just like a softball team. So we have, first base. You can't play softball if you don't have a pitcher, just so people don't know softball. That doesn't work out. If you don't have a first baseman, there's no one there to catch the ball. Everyone's always going to get to first. I mean, you all understand that, whether it's baseball, softball, or any other sport. You don't have a quarterback, you don't have much of a team because the guy's hiking to nobody. So I realized that I need to have a practice management solution. Obviously, I do tax, so I have to have a tax solution. I need a way to get the tax returns to my clients electronically and not through email or through paper. I don't have to print returns, things like that. So I knew I needed certain things in my practice in order for it to run efficiently. I need e-signatures for 8879s. I need a way to communicate with my clients. I need a way to track my work. I need to be able to track our time. We do some things still by the hour because we do IRS resolution. We have to have in our wheelhouse, we have to have the ability to pull transcripts. We need to be able to do things like process payroll. And so in recording clients' transactions, those are the things that help in an ecosystem of a tech stack that work if you implement it and put it together for yourself. Now, not everybody's going to use the tech stack I use. I just know it works for me so I can work 30 hours a week. And that's just what I want for my firm. Some people still want to grow, grow employees and staff. And I'm at a point now where I just want to we've got 3 people now. It used to be 4. We sent one over as a Trojan horse to the IRS, which was worth it. And so I replaced him with technology. And I think that that's super important. So I really encourage people to define the positions within their firm. And if you don't know what they are, you can go out and take a look at my starting lineup. You'll see them. They're right there. And then fill in your blanks. Because without having that technology in place, you're always going to have to be hands-on.
So
I wrote the book, The Designated.
So, Jason, do you know what position you play on Bookkeep? It sounds like you're more of a catcher, right? Like,
yeah. And I'm not a baseball or softball player in general, but yeah, we're trying to capture. Maybe we're out in. Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a Dawn question. We're gonna have to ask her. She's actually on the chat.
So maybe Dawn can fill in what position
where
Bookkeep
Bookkeep
plays.
fits in that metaphor. I'm not sure, but on this slide here, we just want to show that what Bookkeep does is all the ones on the left are the different sales and payment platforms. So we capture proper accounting entries. The other reason I started this company was it's just a frustration I've seen where software firms like a Square or Stripe or Shopify, they just don't understand, but more importantly, they don't care about accountants. They don't care or need to provide you with accounting numbers. They provide sales numbers, they create sales systems. And so what we do is we connect to these systems, we capture the numbers, we turn it into proper accounting numbers that everyone here understands in proper accrual format. So we basically translate from these software apps into accounting numbers, and we're adding more apps every day, and we're trying to make it easier and easier to get every payment and software system on the left side onto our platform. We currently post into mostly QuickBooks 0. We do have NetSuite that we're testing with, and we're working on getting into more of them as well.
Yeah, it looks like you're going out to Dawn's website looks like you're playing second base.
Second base. All right.
Licio is the, or no, I'm sorry, Smart Vault is the catcher. I thought, you know, because everything was feeding into, you know, everything's
Right.
being pitched to you, that you would be the catcher. Maybe she's got a different thought about that.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
And
Let's
I would just say Dawn, you know, is in the air on a flight right now. And she's informed me that she's done a workaround because they don't allow Zoom on the plane. So she can see us, but she can't hear us. She can't see the chat except for hosts and panelists, and she can see the Q&A. So I did send her a message asking her which position you guys would play, but she's busy answering some other questions right now. So she is trying to help where she can, but she's got limited Zoom access. So
that just speaks to the awesomeness that Dawn is.
Dawn
the fact that she's trying to join us from a plane.
She used Swissnet to get in and around the
really?
Zoom limitations. So she's brilliant. She's just brilliant. She's dedicated and brilliant.
All right. So now we'll talk a little bit about Dawn through here of how to Bookkeep, you know, how did you put Bookkeep in the starting line? And now Dawn's taking up all of the bandwidth.
Well, I can tell you, you know, we go to obviously a lot of conferences, Dan. We're always going to conferences. And when it comes to looking for technology, I'm usually on the outlook for new technology that I haven't seen yet. It's not new, probably not even new technology, but it's just new to me. And when I first saw Bookkeep, the first thing I thought of was, you mean you're going to post the gross sale? That was the first thing I asked, because I have always been concerned about the bank feeds when it comes to the revenue side. And so, you know, obviously tested it out, saw how it automatically just grabbed, and I say, you know, I just set it and forget it for Dawn Brolin. So we set it up and we implement it, and we're getting gross sales, we're tracking sales tax, we're making sure it matches between the actual sales, is the sales tax correct? And we also, what I love probably the most is we get the email that tells us, okay, this many transactions were posted, there were no errors, they're all green, they're like green notifications, meaning greens go, we're good. And so I found that, number one, to give me peace of mind. I don't have to worry about if one of my bookkeepers enters a journal entry correctly, right? If they're recording revenue through a journal entry, Bookkeep's doing that for us. And so now we're able to, we come into the bank feeds, we are seeing that we're able to do the match and not have to worry about categorizing. And for me, in our firm, that's our goal. I tell Nicole all the time, I'm like, the moment you enter a transaction, you need to call me, because that means we don't have a technology set up either properly or we are missing something, so that we can have that bank feed match happen. And the other thing I think that's important, and that I experienced, we had a little bit of a data issue on a hosting solution, not a data issue, but a hosting solution glitch, a little bit of a hack. And during the time and the transition, which this stuff happens, it seems to be happening more than often than not, but we found that we were worked up about a lot of our clients who were on desktop, who didn't have necessarily the ability to do something like posting their revenue on a regular basis and so on. We had no concerns about the clients we had connected from Bookkeep into QBO from their various sales channels. And we had peace of mind that we could still move on and operate without really shifting our workload. And so Bookkeep, as we see them growing, as we see them evolving, and that's something Jason, you know, might talk about, is just about how can it solve for all of that. So when I go into bank feeds, it always says match. That's like the dream. That's the dream. And so my journey with Bookkeep has just automated our sales recordings, allowing us to match the deposits, if you will, that come into the bank feeds. But we're confident and we understand that sales are recorded correctly, and that's probably the biggest thing for us. And it really has really put our minds at ease that our transactions for our clients are coming in correctly.
I think that that speaks pretty soundly of where how you. I mean, I think you should be the catcher at this point. Move over the, you know, you're going to be involved with every play at this case. But the way that here we go. I'll get to the right one. I don't know why it keeps wanting to play Dawn again, but
Well, Dan, I was just going to say something there. Rachel said something in here. My 2 cents. Jason has a true understanding of the accounting, yet is a true tech innovator, a very unique combo that I don't see very often. And I think she's really hit that nail on the head and everything. And I think that is what makes Bookkeep so amazing is I agree. Jason really understands the underlying problem with getting all this information in and understands the need of the underlying accounting, what it needs to be, what we need to account for, and what it should be, how it should be coming in and everything. And that's why bookkeeping's so amazing is he gets it. He knows what we need and what we need to have and everything. And he also's got the tech side to where he can build it. And so I think that's how Bookkeep is so amazing for us. So, Jason, I think it's a true testament to your entrepreneurial intellect to create this for us. I mean, I think it's just great.
I didn't know this would be a love fest, but yes, I appreciate that. I've been obsessed with accounting forever in my businesses, and so taking and trying to help support it with software was basically where I needed to go. So, and I start from the accounting angle. What is an accountant? How does an accountant think? Let's automate it that way, not how does the software developer think? And then back into what does the accountant need from that? So yeah, we also, our head of product is also a CPA. So we have CPA, we have several other, not necessarily CPAs, but bookkeepers who work in-house as well that do testing and product development. So we are very different than a lot of other app developers in the space, I believe.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Dan.
I think that's one of the things that I think that we appreciate most about you, Jason, is that the fact that you have lived the pain and you're trying to spare others from it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I've cleaned up messed up books. I've cleaned, I've also in the early days of Bookkeep, I've cleaned up probably tens of thousands of Square transactions from a client's books where Square dumped every single sale into QuickBooks, which is completely wrong. I've been through the pain and I've been trying to fix it. Yep.
So this screen here just kind of gives an example of if you do have multiple sales channels, you can connect them as one entity. What are we looking at here? This is like inside of the Bookkeep.
Basically the
platform.
app. Yeah, you can connect multiple apps to one QuickBooks file, and that's the user interface here. And then each app, you have your own mapping template to decide how you want to book the sales summaries as well as the deposit entries, to which accounts you want them booked to. But we set up the the proper accounting templates, the proper daily postings. You just have to map to the accounts. We actually, for some of the connections, we will auto generate accounts for you if you want us to. If you don't have the accounts or not exactly sure how to set them up, but each connection you have the ability to map separately.
One of the things that I think also separates Bookkeep from others in this space is the ability to make edits. And if you do make changes to those templates, you can repost to the same transaction rather than update, pulling it back out, deleting it, finding it, unreconciling it, unmatching it. You can then just update existing transactions.
Another huge frustration of mine with app developers who connect to QuickBooks and say, yeah, we built a QuickBooks connection, is there's no link to what they just posted. There's no way to delete that posting. If you repost it, it posts twice. They just don't even understand what the day of work is involved for a bookkeeper or an accountant. And everything's hidden. I mean, even our own payroll system, I click the button, post it to accounting, and it says posted on this date. Where is the journal? Like, put me a link so I can see what was just posted, because I know I have to edit it. It's like, they don't understand, and that just drives me nuts. And so we're trying to make it really easy for you to see what was posted. You can see if there's a new version posted. We always link and give you audit trail to the same entry. We never duplicate. And we have bulk postings. You can run history. You can connect Square and post all of last year's entries. We do charge extra for that, but you do have the ability to post historicals. And you can run bulk jobs and bulk delete, maybe not bulk deletes, but you can delete, every entry that we posted from QuickBooks from our platform as well.
So really, Bookkeep is kind of like a unification repository of all of these places, and then you can just send those over. One person, I think you're answering their question, but if you could maybe just answer that live. People are seeing Bookkeep and are like, this smells like X, right?
It's true. Yeah, I can just do it live for Cinder. Cinder posts every single transaction, and that's totally fine if you have a client that's doing a few transactions. We really are, but even if you get to 10 transactions a day, and I mean 10 orders or 10 sales. If you're in retail or restaurant, you're doing hundreds a day. If you're a big e-commerce seller, you're doing hundreds a day. You cannot post every single transaction to QuickBooks because, of course, that's not going to reconcile to what you get deposited. We post sales summaries to what's expected from Shopify, for example, and then we post what Shopify deposited and it matches it up. So we do 2 entries for a day that is going to match to what hits your bank account. If you post every transaction, that is not going to match to what hits your bank account, especially with Shopify, which is their batches are done on a weird time schedule that doesn't match US time zones. For A2X, I kind of look at them, have done it a little bit differently. They started out with what's in my bank deposit, and they try and back into what the sales were. We think like accountants. What did I sell today? As an accountant, if you did $1,000 in sales today, that happened today. It doesn't matter if it hit your bank account. You're an accrual-based business. You did sales today. They must be in your books. Then make sure I got paid for them the next day. So we go that direction and we post dailies, whereas A2X does, they wait till the deposit day and then they back into what the sales were and what range that sales was for. So those are the differences there, but they both work well. I think our system is simpler to use and probably more accounting minded than those, but those are the differences, I think.
Yeah, and then just as somebody, if you're tracking inventory in QBO, then this really wouldn't.
This is not an inventory tool. It's only certain with Shopify. I think only Shopify we have cost of goods sold. Maybe there's a couple other platforms we have cost of goods sold in summary format. So we will capture the cost of goods sold on that day as a single number. We will not track individual item inventory. That gets a lot more complex. And in general, it's still better to only do accounting entries into your accounting platform for inventory and not do individual inventory management in QuickBooks.
Gotcha. Okay, so we're coming in for the top of the power hour. So we want to ask, thanks for joining us today, Jason. Would you like to learn more about Bookkeep? Definitely, I've seen a lot of engaging questions thrown in the chat as well as our Q&A. And it looks like you do have some fans that joined you today that are already using Bookkeep as a solution.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to answer all the questions in the chat, but
we'll kind of send them to you post the webinar, and if you can.
But I should say, either we'll reach out, or if you're interested, obviously you can sign up on our website and instantly start testing it out and chat with us on the website, and we're happy to do a one-on-one demo as well with you if you just come to our website. So anytime.
And of course, we'll have you back, for a couple more webinars. We'll think of other, interesting topics that you've kind of taken on as part of the solution. Finding the problem, fixing the solution. Mindset that you are.
And COVID just accelerated everybody's move to the e-commerce. So this just continues to be a growing area, and it's definitely a complex area. And as more and more people get into it, more and more people discover how complex it is. So Jason, we're glad to have you now. And as Dan said, we look forward to having you again more in the future. So thank you again very much for joining us. And Dawn, thank you for joining us yesterday on the recorded webinars, as well as in your genius way of joining us via the air today. We appreciate it. And Dan, of course, thank you for all you do. And Emily in the background, thank you as well.
Absolutely.
Thank
So
you
we
both.
hopefully we see you next time on the QB Power Hour. Next time is the year-end cleanup and books review on the 30th of August. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.
Thank you
Thanks,
all.
everyone.
All right.